Good afternoon. Can you hear me? We still have some tea gatherers in the back. That's fine. Please feel free to get tea while I'm talking. I want to welcome you on behalf of the Jackson Family Center for Ethics and Values to our final Tea and Ethics of the year. That doesn't seem possible. I don't know what has happened this year, but thanks to you and a lot of exciting things happening, it certainly has flown. This is our last of these, and I hope you have, if you haven't gotten, I will make sure you get one of these on your way out. This is the Jackson Center's final speaker. He's a bioethicist, and you can read about him. And we have also handed you, excuse me, a flyer for a philosophy lecture, a visiting philosopher. So I have a couple of announcements about the Jackson Center and then a couple of house rules, and we'll get started. First announcement about the Jackson Center, we are really excited to tell you that we are beginning a new series. Now, you're going to have to help me with this because my assistant named the series, and I can't always say it right. It'll be at the Java City Coffee House. We will be having this group discussions of things about immediate ethical concerns. Our first one is going to be on the ethics of the economy, and we are really excited. I'm not allowed to tell you the professors that'll lead the talk yet because I haven't gotten the final okay, but we'll send out some announcements. Here's the thing. What we want to do is have a group discussion. No grades, no anything. Just come in and let's talk about it. How do we feel? What are the ethics of this? What's going on? Is all of this okay? Do we think it's okay? Why or why not? So we're bringing in an economist and a philosopher and just sit down and talk. It'll be at the Java City Coffee House, and my assistant has named this series, and if I say it wrong, Amanda, you can correct me. Java Jabber. I always say it backwards and say Jabba Jabber. And Amanda has been trying to teach me. Anyway, you'll see the announcement. We will have a series of these during next year also. I've gotten some okays. There will be one on sex ethics. There will be one on the ethics, just conversations on the ethics of war, things that are of immediate concern. Other exciting things, already next year, Dr. Deborah Walker has agreed to do a tea and ethics, and we're really excited about that, Deb. We have in the works Deb's tea and ethics on some form of communication ethics. We have a sports ethics coming up. We will be doing one on ethics of politics, on ethics of marine life. So we have a lot going on for next year too. Please remember that these are all free, and the only way you can thank us for doing this is to attend. We want to start the discussion on campus. We want you to walk out of here talking about it. We can't give you the answers, but we can sure help you framework the questions. And you know what? Living in today's world, there are just lots of ethical issues. So let's talk about them, let's be open about them, and see what we can begin to understand. I don't have the answers either, so you really help me in your discussions to understand. If you have some special topic you would like to see us discuss, at the bottom of the announcement about Dr. Eric Parins is our email and our telephone. You're free to come by our center, to call us, to email us. The center is about all of us. It's not just about some of us. So it's very important to us that you let us know how we can meet your needs. Okay, house rules. If you run out of tea and you want another cup, that's what the pot's back there for. Please feel free to get up and get another cup of tea. Please do not feel free to leave this lecture and discussion until I call time. We don't do these so you can walk in and out. This is a commitment to at least 1 hour. I will call time for you, and when that time is up, those of you, I know some of you must leave, that's okay, and we understand that, and then you may leave. But I think it is grossly impolite to walk out, so please do not do that. Also, please turn off your cell phones. That's really important. And you may not know this, but I made this huge announcement with the visiting lecturer one time, sat down, and my cell phone went off. So please be sure that you turn off the cell phones. I need to tell you that for me to introduce today's presenter is really like introducing a member of my family, and I'm very proud to say that. Professor Preston McKever-Floyd and I have been here since the late 70s, early 80s. We have shared a lot. He sang at my daughter's weddings, and so he is a very important part of my life and of the life of Coastal Carolina University. I'm always very proud to call him not only my colleague, but my dear friend. And I may have twisted his arm, and I might have pouted a bit, and maybe I stomped my foot a bit, but he did agree to share with us some of his knowledge and some of his expertise. And I promise you that you will leave here with questions and lots to talk about. At the end of Preston's talk, we will have open question time, and we can grill him some. That's good for him. Okay, please help me welcome Professor Preston McKever-Floyd to the podium.
Thank you, Professor McCullough, and thank all of you for coming. Some of you have had me as a professor, so you know that I think education, I don't think, I know. Education, true education is always interactive. So this isn't just about kind of coming in and this being a filling station and I give information and you plug in and take it all away. I'm going to start with some information, and then I'm going to stop for a while so we can interact. We're going to do this work together because while I have very definite views about some of these things, it's always interesting to discover what other people know. One of the joys of teaching is to be able to constantly learn. I want to start with a reading. This is from Letting Go of the Person You Used to Be, Lama Surya Das. Many men and women are reeling emotionally from the recent traumas, whether these traumas represent personal disappointment and loss or global chaos. Too frequently, the common advice we hear for dealing with our feelings of grief and pain falls short of really helping. Retaliation, revenge, and anger, while they might seem initially satisfying, are not the answers. Neither are despair and helplessness. But there is a middle way approach in which suffering can be transformed into understanding, compassion, wisdom, and even peace. This is possible for all of us if we apply ourselves to such a transformation, no matter who we are, where we live, or what we believe. Reverend Martin Luther King said that we had only two choices: to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. It is inevitably in our highest self-interest to pull together if we don't want to be pulled apart. Gazing on the face of the other, the ethics of compassion in the global village. Transformation, swift, constant change, is a common thread in the tapestry of 20th and 21st century life. At the beginning of the 20th century, humans were contemplating flight. By centuries in, excursions into outer space were commonplace, and the perennial desire to visit the moon a reality. While the 20th was marked by industrialization and scientific discovery, the 21st century is characterized by the exponential growth of innovations and exchange of information, lending itself to the interpretation of binary codes into computer language, wireless audio communication, and video imaging from virtually any corner in the world, and the popular television images of morphing superheroes and Power Rangers. Mass transit and communication of the early 20th century made the world a village. Faster than the speed of light dissemination of information of the 21st century is making the world a community. This statement was written by Dr. Martin Luther King in 1967 in the last chapter of his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. The title of that chapter was The World House. And what is so interesting, it really sounds like it could have been written yesterday. Some years ago, a novelist died. Among his papers was found a list of suggested plots for future stories. The most prominently underscored being this one: a widely separated family inherits a house in which they have to live together. This is the great new problem of humankind. We have inherited a large house, a great world house, in which we have to live together. Black and white, Easterner and Westerner, Gentile and Jew, Catholic and Protestant, Muslim and Hindu. A family unduly separated in ideas, culture, and interests, who, because we can never live apart, must learn somehow to live with each other in peace. End of quote. There is an increased acknowledgement of the interconnectedness of eco and economic systems and the fluidity of geopolitical boundaries. At no time since recorded history has the need for global transformation been so obvious. Our world is littered with the results of the seemingly endless cycles of political, ideological, ethnic, and religious conflicts. Speaking at a similar time in the 20th century, the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead could have been speaking today when he stated that we are living in a time, quote, when civilization is shifting its basic outlook, a major turning point in history, where the presuppositions on which society is structured is being analyzed, sharply challenged, and profoundly changed, end of quote. We are witnessing all over the globe economic and socio-political restructuring and shifts in power. But, said Dr. King, quote, today our survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change. The large house in which we live demands that we transform this worldwide neighborhood into a worldwide brotherhood. Together, we must learn to live as brothers, or together we will be forced to perish as fools, end of quote. The beginning stages of this transformation requires that we reevaluate the us and them model of global engagement that has held sway for such a long time. The discourse on alterity or otherness on the basis of nationality, ethnicity, religion, gender, race, or sexuality is characterized by what one philosopher, Val Plumwood, refers to as hegemonic centrism. The centrism appears in oppressive context and is marked by a single dominating center which is established by othering and a false universalism. Othering consists of an omnipotent subject, the one at the center, who identifies anything other than his or herself as a collection of negative qualities. False universalism is the cultural process of representing the experiences of the dominant center, of the us, as the universal, thus rendering the experiences of the subordinated, the them, as deviant and are invisible. This centrist configuration, according to Plumwood, is based on a distinctive dualism where there's a pronounced break between the privileged center or the higher group and the subordinated other or lower group. This dualism is characterized by 5 particular characteristics: radical exclusion, homogenization/stereotyping, denial/backgrounding, incorporation, and instrumentalism. Radical exclusion is the defining of the dominant group as categorically opposite to the subordinated group by ruling out of their real or assumed character. This is not merely a social separation, but a sharp break, implying a difference in natures. Thus, the other, it stands apart and separate and inferior to the one. This leads to homogenization, where the other is not seen as the member of a class where the other is seen as an individual, is not seen as an individual, but as the member of a class that is stereotyped as all alike, thus interchangeable, or replaceable as symbols for the whole group. This allows the dominant group to deem the other inessential, effectively backgrounding the other. The difference between the one and the other are defined as deficiencies and seen as evidence of inferiority on the part of the other. Thus, the other is stripped of autonomy. Plumwood calls this process incorporation. And she says, quote, "The speech, voice, culture, and the religion of the colonized other is recognized or valued only to the extent that it is assimilated to that of the colonizing one. Through assimilation, the other is produced as an inferior and imitative version of the one, so that this one can retain its claim to radical difference and also its claim to represent the whole as the pure form of the other. While the other's independent agency and value are denied, downgraded and devalued, the other is not seen as an end in his or herself, but only in terms of their usefulness to the one. This is instrumentalism. Now, what I want to do with us today for a little while is create a conceptual framework. In my classes, I tell one of the simplest ways to explain theory is that a theory is a way of seeing. People are taught to see through theories, look at the world, look at situation in various ways. And so we create conceptual frameworks. A conceptual framework is a set of beliefs, values, attitudes, and assumptions which shape and reflect how one views oneself and one's world. It is a socially constructed lens through which we perceive ourselves and others. It is affected by such factors as gender, race, class, age, affectional orientation, nationality, and religious backgrounds. There's nothing wrong with the conceptual framework in itself, but every now and then conceptual frameworks can become oppressive, and that is what I want to deal with. Let's talk for a minute about opposition. In the world, they are opposites, yes? In the world, and for my students of religion, the first gods that are created, who are they? Mother Earth and Father Sky, yes? Does that make sense? People are trying to understand the world. They look out, they see Earth, they see sky. What is the relationship between Mother Earth and Father Sky? Father Sky? I like to use more sexual metaphors. Father Sky penetrates Mother Earth with rain, sunlight, and what does she do in turn? She produces. She gives birth. Is that not a very helpful? That's Sex Education 101? Okay. Okay, this is not anything X-rated, this is Sex Education 101. Receiving Mother Earth, overarching Father Sky, penetrates her with rain and sunlight, and she gives birth. We still talk in terms of taking ore or precious metals from the womb of Earth, yes, or from the bowels of Earth. So that metaphor is still very much in place. So that's a major opposition, and we see that in almost every culture. Every culture, you will find the first gods are usually Father Sky, Mother Earth. What are some other oppositions? Day and night, light and dark. That's opposition. What else? Speak louder. Heaven and hell. Good and evil. Hot and cold, as in tea. Hot and cold. What else? High and low. Male and female. Any others? Life and death. Right and wrong. Aren't we? Isn't that our lives consist of an interplay of opposition? Yes. Yes. We describe things that way, boy and girl, yes, light and dark, day and night. We describe things that way, and there's nothing inherently wrong about that. But this is the issue. This is the issue, particularly in the Western, what I call the Western symbolic, our whole scheme of conceptual belief. Since the pre-Socratic philosophers, there's always been this list of oppositions, okay, various kinds of contrarieties they are called, ways of seeing the world, with these oppositions. The problem comes when we decide that one side of the opposition is right or the best, and the other side is wrong or inferior. Then we begin the creation of an oppressive conceptual framework. Yes? Then we go on further to say, well, since this is the way it is, let's look at the Father Sky, Mother Earth one. Well, since this is the way it is, Father Sky is on top, so he must be the most important, yes? And he must be better. And so since she's under and submissive, then that is where she's supposed to be. And why is this so? It is so because God made it so. So then we have a certain gender ideology. And we feel it is our right then to enforce this way of thinking. Yes? That I am the one who's dominant, and whoever is on the bottom then is less valuable. So we have an oppressive conceptual framework. These frameworks are oppressive because they justify and maintain relationships of domination and subordination. And we can name many of those. Oppressive conceptual frameworks are based on three things particularly. First is value hierarchical thinking, which you've already gotten. Value is whatever's on top is most valuable. Okay? Whatever's on top. So the best way to be the winner, be on top. The best way to get the honors, be on top. The best way to be seen in class, why don't you do that more often? Be on top. So then numbers become important, yes? What grade am I? This grade says something about who I am. And I particularly like it when I'm the one with the higher grades, because then I can say of those with the lower grades that they are not quite there. They're not quite up to snuff. I should not associate with them because they don't make grades as high as I do. Yes? Value hierarchical thinking. The other is value dualism, which I kind of explained already. When you have the binary, you have male on one side, female on other, light on one side, dark on other. What are some possible ways that we can talk about the relationships between dualisms? Yes?
Isn't that the same thing as the middle state that we're learning with going over Buddhism and stuff?
Are you asking me a question?
You're not Alex Trebek.
I'm not Alex Trebek, that's right.
It's the same thing as the middle state with Buddhism. That
What does that mean?
the middle state is having the equalism of both, like you're right in the middle. Everything is living above extremes.
I'm sorry? Somebody said something.
Living above opposites.
Living above opposite.
You can't hear that.
Okay, ask your question. Make your statement again.
My statement is that I'm in his class right now and we're learning about Buddhism and we're talking about the middle state, which is not being on one extreme or the other, but being in the middle and having the equality of it all.
Okay, so here you're talking, one way of dealing with dualisms is a middle way. That's what you're suggesting, the middle state. That's one way. What else? What's other possible ways of dealing with dualisms? For example, let's do the Father Sky, Mother Earth one. We made it one where Father Sky was the dominant. What other ways can we talk about the Father Sky, Mother Earth relationship?
They're both equal. They both contribute.
Where's that coming from? Okay, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, as far as dualism, giving both dual parts equal.
Okay, so what is their relationship to each other?
They both need each other.
So they are? They may not be interchangeable because they are different. Interdependent, complementary, yes? Yes, I'm sorry? Partners, equals. Did you hear that, Ken? Donna said equal. Okay, you got it? Okay, equal. Well, and again, I want the idea that it can be complementary, yes? Because Father Sky can penetrate all he wants. If there's no Mother Earth to receive, there will be no birth. So there's the idea in oppositions. But our problem is that we deal with dualisms in terms of radical opposition. If you are not of my group. If you are different from my group, then difference is bad. You wanted to say something, Betsy?
Well, being a middle state, if it's codependent, I mean, I look at it more as like a conversation. Like there's two sides to
Isn't that complementarity?
the middle is, there's always two sides to a story, so whatever's in the middle of those two sides is what actually happened. Is that the same concept?
Oh, well, that could be another kind of triad. Yes? There are two sides and then the right side. Or there are two sides meeting. Yes. So you have a triad. Two things giving rise to three is a kind of relationship. Yes?
Well, I guess I just don't see the middle point in Father Sky and Mother Earth.
True. Little more difficult. So what way do you see that relationship?
Like you said, top and bottom. I mean, they may be equally important, but to me, that's not a middle code.
Don't worry about it being middle. You said you don't see it. That's fine. What is it?
A relationship.
What kind?
Dependent relationship.
Okay, yeah, so again, or complementary. One part of the dualism completes the other, yes? Yes? In order for it to be fully functioning, whatever it is, one side completes the other. Does that make sense? But is that usually the way we deal with it? Unfortunately not. That is where we get the us and them problematic. Yes? Because if it is different from me, then I think it is wrong. It is worse. It should be avoided. It is other. Yes? That's putting it politely. What's the worst thing that can happen if we think something is other when we other things and other people and other groups?
We believe it should be destroyed. You asked what the first
Yes,
thing
I was looking for you, Deb. There you are.
I believe that sometimes the extreme of that is we believe the other should be destroyed.
That is the ultimate extreme, that we believe that they should be destroyed. And further, we have the right
Because
to
they are
destroy
not as
them.
good.
Yes, the right to destroy them. This leads to the logic of domination. The logic of domination, and we could not have stated it better. Without a logic of domination, a description of similarities and differences would be just that, a description of similarities and differences. Yes? We understand in the world there are differences in people. Yes? There are differences in cultures. Yes? There are differences in gender. Yes? And as well, there are similarities. Similarities. And they are no more than that if that is the way we look at the world. Yes? But the logic of domination pushes it a little further than that. It says this is the logic, for any X and Y, any groups X and Y, if X is morally superior to Y, then X is morally justified in dominating or subordinating Y. For any X and Y, if X is morally superior to Y, then X is justified, morally justified, in dominating Y. Do we hear any such discussions going on in the world? Unfortunately, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we find all kinds of ways to justify our moral superiority in able to other somebody else and to dominate them. Is that a fair evaluation? Yes. And we have all kinds of ways. And then, since we have communications majors here, how are these ideas disseminated out in the world? Through cartoons. Yes? Speak louder. Through various forms of the media. Yes? Through rhetoric. Yes? Pop culture. Yes? These ideas get disseminated and they're picked up almost by osmosis. And so sometimes you don't know where they come from. I have a little granddaughter. I have one adopted son. I have a little granddaughter. Well, she's not little anymore, she's 15. Oh my God. But when she was little and in preschool, she came home from preschool one day and she started talking about a boy's cup and a girl's cup. Well, certainly she had not learned that at home. What do you suppose the difference was between the boy's cup and the girl's cup? Color. Speak louder. Color. Rome. Size. Well, of course, size. Size matters. The boy's cup was the bigger. Where did she get that? Yeah, that automatically the boy's cup was supposed to be the largest cup. Okay? She was not taught that at home. And I doubt that the teacher stood up in front of the class and said, oh, the boy's cup is always bigger. But somewhere in that process, she picked up the idea that the boy's cup was supposed to be the large cup and the girl's cup the smallest. Yes? This is the same way many of us pick up our prejudices. Yes? And until we, either by decision or by experience, come to a place where we are forced to reflect on these things, then we don't. And we act as if these ways that we are viewing the world is actually the way it is. And what I'm suggesting is there need to be a disruption of the suppressive or these direct oppositional, disjunctive kind of relationships between dualisms. Things are different. Things are similar. But just difference alone does not make something worse. Our world is becoming smaller and smaller. If you had not noticed before, when we started having trouble on the stock market in New York, where else was it felt? In China and Tokyo and India and everywhere else. If something happens on the stock market in China or Japan, do we feel it here? Yes. Where are my science majors? Any science majors? Yes. You know that we are all made up of what, basically? Are we matter? Some sort of water, air, emptiness. Einstein said what? E equals mc squared, so it's all basically energy. Yes? We are all systems of energy. This is an energy system, the light energy system, that's an energy system. The difference in quality of these various systems is their level of vibration and our ability to perceive the change in them, but they are all doing what? Constantly changing. Yes? And that is a fact for us as human beings. But one of the things that's scary about us as human beings is change. How do I know that's so? Because of my 10 plastic surgeries. We like to keep things the same. I'll have friends who will say to me, oh, you remember the good old days? You remember how it was before they took prayer out of schools? I said, if I remember correctly, when prayer was in schools, Brian, I think they were bombing churches in Alabama. It's a matter of what? Perspective. We always want to act like something was better at some other time. In truth, there's no time better than this time. Because this is the only time we have. And at this moment, it is necessary for us to make conscious decisions to transform. Transformation is a little different from just change. A certain amount of change happens whether we participate in it or not. Transformation requires our conscious participation. And this is what I am asking of you as intelligent young people and people, period, to do in our world. This is what we need. Our world needs a change. Our world needs a transformation. And this is not, I'm not talking flowery talk and pie in the sky. Transformation is not easy. It's not easy for you in your individual lives, and it's not easy in our dealing with people. But we are going to have to if we plan to stay on this planet much longer. We already have enough nuclear weapons to do what? Destroy the whole thing. Do we not? And you know what's so interesting? I was looking the other night on television, and there was this new jet that was being created, yes? And to show you how strange we operate as human beings. Now, this new jet, which would cost something like $400 million, well, they were designing it over 10 years ago because they expected a sort of sophisticated warfare by 2009. And where are we fighting? In little towns and in cubby holes. So there's no use for the jet. Isn't that interesting to you? Here, this money that has been spent to design this jet that is useless because we are not even doing that kind of fighting. Which suggests to me, when you keep doing something and it's not working, what should you do? You should change it. You should change it. Whatever it takes to change it, you should change it. And I suggest that what we need more of, or I'm suggesting that you look at, the ethics of compassion. The ethics of compassion, as I configure it, consists of these things. First of all, a recognition of common humanity. Common humanity. Now, that does not mean that at every level we are the same, but in far so many we are. But I like this definition that Hannah Arendt, another philosopher, gives. She says, human beings are all the same. They are all the same in that they are each unique. So our sameness is in our difference. So we are not homogenized. We are not all one thing. We are many different things at many different times. Yes? So examining a common humanity. The other thing that I think is absolutely on target, Alfred North Whitehead, philosopher, said, all human beings want to do three things. First, they want to live. They want to live well, and they want to live better. Now, that may mean different things for different people, but at a very basic level, human beings want to live. They want to live well, and they would like to live better. Secondly, I think mutuality and complementarity, rather than exclusivity and opposition, must become what marks our engagement with each other. We must seek ways that we complete each other, not ways that we are separated. Does that make sense? We must find these ways. It's real easy to find points of disagreement. So much of our systems are based on the attack model, yes? You present a defense and I do what? Attack it. But working across boundaries, yes? Working across boundaries with mutuality and complementarity, as opposed to excluding and radical opposition. And the third thing, collaboration and consensus rather than combativeness and coercion. My view may be ever so right, but I do not have the right to force it on someone else. I would like to, and there's a Sanskrit saying that I like, tat tivam asi. I see the other in myself and myself in others. And I want to close with just a short reading from Walt Whitman's Song of Myself. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and I assume that you shall sing yourself. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them for yourself. I have heard what the talkers were talking, the talk of beginning and end. But I do not talk of the beginning or end. There was never any more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, nor any more heaven or hell than there is now. The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering. I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yelp over the roofs of the world. The last god of the day holds back for me. It flings my likeness after the rest, and true as any, on the shadows wild. It coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk. I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I effuse my flesh in the eddies and drift in lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep in courage. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere, waiting for you. Thank you. Yes.
And you'll have to speak loudly, it's hard to hear you in the back. How would you compare our tendency for opposition to animalistic behavior?
Will you repeat that so they hear you?
How would I compare our tendency toward opposition to that of animalistic behavior? It's the same. No, animals don't tend to have that kind of opposition. Whatever their instincts are in regard to opposition, usually are concerned with turf, yes, or with protection of themselves or threat to that protection. But we seem to be able to create oppositions. We can create oppositions where there really appear to be no natural opposition.
So would you think that that's just our ability for intellect?
Or the like thereof.
We,
when we are not using it at its best.
do you
Yes.
think that we create those oppositions because of animalistic behavior?
No. I think that we create them because we can. Yeah. I wouldn't think it was just like some particular natural instinct. If it had been that at one time, it would have been supported by our need for the same things animals would have needed. But that's not true for us anymore. Yes.
Would you say that opposition would be kind of created by our own morals? Because when you think about it, animals, some people would find it, the Bible says, between animals or anything, that's moral. While other people would think it's not. I think that it's so hard because people do things on their own morals and they contradict each other. When you had two planes crashing the Twin Towers, they thought that was they thought they were doing something moral. They thought that they were doing something, they thought they were going straight to heaven. Whereas, you know what I mean, how morals can
Conflict of morals.
And then how can you,
Yeah.
It'd be cool, it'd be great if you could just come to an agreement or change something.
Yeah.
But you can't change how you think about, crashing two Twin Towers, I'm sure is wrong. How can you change, you know what I mean? Do you kind of, am I making any sense?
Yeah, it's making sense. We can't change the fact that it happened. We hold on. We can't change the fact that it happened, but we can discover why.
But I think she's trying to ask, how do you cope with the opposition of extreme morals? Whereas we think that's morally wrong and they think that's morally right. How would you?
Move your hand. Why did you say you're just doing?
I was just making a comment about it. I just don't understand how, it's...
What I'm suggesting, particularly in this case, in what you're talking about, there are reasons that led to those things, that clash of morals. Okay? There are many reasons, many that we don't know. Yes? But what disturbs me, one of the things that disturbs me was the response. I remember very vividly when that happened. This was a very teachable moment for us here at Coastal Carolina University. And I remember the day it happened, that first day, I wouldn't talk about it in my classes at all because I didn't want to make statements without having had time to reflect. And some days later, students came to me and asked me would I lead an assembly. And it made me have to reflect on it. And these are the kinds of things that I thought in regard to that. First of all, the people who actually did the deed died. Yes? Now, the conditions that led to that, no. But the response was, we must go and get them. And who are the them? That's the disturbing part. Who are the them or the they? And that's so often our knee-jerk reaction in a lot of situations. We immediately say they, and who are the they?
I think that who are the them or who are the they, that's speaking to what you just talked about radical exclusion as well as homogenizing the other.
The other.
Because if those people have not been defined or identified, then we are committing that same crime. We are radically excluding them and putting them into groups and symbolizing
all by that one thing. Speaking, Deb, I'm picking on your class again. Speaking of communications, someone sent out a cartoon when the plane went down in New York with the geese. Somebody's laughing because they got it messed up. They sent out a picture with two geese with turbans on and said, these are the geese that took the plane. Okay?
To close, I would just like to say that it is possible to begin to understand the other. I am very old, and I was raised in the Deep South in times of extreme segregation. You have no idea. I mean, there's no way that people who are not from my generation could ever explain to you. As a child, I cried over it. And I didn't understand, and I was told that's the way it is. I was very angry. And I'm not sure why as a child, but I knew that wasn't right. And I've had the excitement of living through a time in which we're all sitting here in an integrated audience. We haven't come far enough. But it is possible through education, through trying to understand the other, through having the nerve to